Hi, this is John Berry. You're on Faith's Edge with Joe Taylor.
You know, you could either do it God's way or you could do it your way, and your way is always wrong, and God's way is always right.
Well, hello. Thank you, country music legend John Berry, winner of all sorts of awards. John has released the title track for the soon-to-be-released film Beautifully Broken. Our conversation is coming up in the next few weeks. Welcome to the 94th episode of On Faith's Edge. My name is Joe Taylor, recovering atheist and your servant in Jesus Christ. This is your place to hear conversations about God and living a life of faith in Jesus Christ. If you want to contact me, I'm most active on Twitter at @4JoeTaylor. I have a great conversation coming up with prolific actor and now full-feature director Daniel Roebuck on his new project, the sweet, beautiful film, Getting Grace. I love bringing you engaging conversations about faith. If this show entertains you, encourages you, informs you, or brings value to you or your life in any way whatsoever, will you consider financially backing the show? The best way to do that right now is to use any Amazon link at onfaithsedge.com. We'll get a modest commission from your purchase, but it doesn't cost you a penny more. Daniel Roebuck is one of Hollywood's most familiar faces, whose acting resume spans 35 years and includes popular television hits like Matlock and Lost, blockbuster films like The Fugitive, and he stars in one of the most watched original series of the past couple years, Amazon's The Man in the High Castle. As a Christian, Daniel was intent on making his directorial debut a film with a message. In Getting Grace, Daniel portrays a small-town mortician whose world is rocked by a rambunctious teenager dying of cancer, as she plans for her departure and impacts the lives of those who will survive her. You'll be really touched by the great performance of newcomer Madeline Dundon as the lead role, Grace. The movie premiered at the Northeast Film Festival in Teaneck, New Jersey, where it won Best Feature, Best Director, Best Actress, and the Audience Choice Awards. Today, Daniel and I will talk about his new Day of Grace philosophy of living life, what he feels his job as a Christian is, where we as all Christians tend to get into trouble, and his movie Getting Grace and why its message is so important. Daniel, your acting career spans 35 years, 227 roles, all the way back to Cave Girl, Matlock, The Fugitive. You're missing.
Hold on, you're missing River's Edge.
Oh yeah, River's Edge. Yeah. Like I said, your career spans 35 years, 227 roles. Cave Girl, Matlock, The Fugitive, everything spurred in between. Your performance in The Man in the High Castle is fantastic.
Thank you.
Really, really good.
That's a creepy show.
I owe you an apology.
What did I do?
You have a long, well-respected career, but somehow the role that came to mind when I was preparing for this interview is your role as a Bauerschwein on Grimm.
I made a real pig of myself. Well, so now here's the thing you got to know about me, which here's the secret factoid about Daniel Roebuck. When I was a little boy, I was drawn to show business through a couple different ways, and one of them was I love those old Gothic horror movies. Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula. Mm-hmm. I'm in many new horror movies. I'm in all of Rob Zombie's horror movies. And I like being in these movies. But when I was a kid, it was the Gothic horror. And so probably the first time I noticed actors were actors, was I realized that Karloff in Frankenstein was 1931, and Karloff in House of Frankenstein was 1941. And in only 10 years, he went from being the monster to the old doctor. And I thought, well, look at that makeup. And they made him look old there, and they made him look like Frank. So I was all about the makeup, making myself up. I did it all the time. So when I do a role where they make me up, I can't tell you how happy I am. That Bauerschwein, that's a 4-hour makeup.
Oh, wow.
I didn't complain, not for 1 second, and I loved every second of it.
What fun, huh, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's 4 hours to put on, it's 2 hours to take off. It's always half as long to take it off.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Want to talk about Getting Grace?
Sure. Gosh, let's talk about it.
What a neat movie, man.
Thank you.
What a neat movie. This is your directorial debut, correct?
It is. For feature film, I've made documentaries and many. I've directed many plays and short films. But Getting Grace is the dream come true because I had been looking for this kind of story, and an author named Jeff Lewis wrote a script called Bending Spoons, and it had all of the primary characters in it. Most especially, it had Grace and Bill, this despondent kind of disconnected funeral director, and Grace, this effervescent, exuberant child dying of cancer. So what a great idea. You take a kid who loves life but is losing it, and a guy who has life but is wrapped up in the world of death by profession and also dead inside, and you throw them together, and you have this and I'm not, these are not my words. We have people have been so gracious about the movie. One guy, one of my favorite quotes is, he said, I don't know if this is the saddest funny movie I've ever seen or the funniest sad movie I've ever seen. And I think that really wraps it up completely, because Grace is so irreverent. And honestly, the reason that my daughter's name is Grace, so that was a great irony when I read the script. And the character, even though my daughter was 12 and the character in the story was older, when I first got the script, I saw my daughter so completely in the story. Irreverent, obtuse. My kid would say, if she knew she could get a laugh, she'd say the worst thing at the worst moment in time, because comedy is really based on one thing, and that is surprise. If something comes out of someone's mouth that you didn't expect, it's a surprise. And you try to work on those jokes. Like I wrote a joke last night just in a conversation. I said, maybe one day I'll be stupid rich, but I know I'm halfway there. So see, that's a good, I made you laugh. So you don't know as long as you can make someone laugh.
Give us a brief synopsis of Getting Grace.
So what you're going to see is a movie about a teenage girl. She's dying of cancer. She goes into a funeral home to find out what's going to happen after she dies, and she ends up teaching the funeral director how to celebrate his life. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice in it and be glad. That's what it doesn't have a greater meaning than that. I do say it's interesting. When I started the journey, I said it's about living every day like it's your last. And that really suggests that, the bacchanalia of, I want to see all the episodes of Andy Griffith without Jack Burns. I want to watch The Funniest Odd Couples. I want to eat prime rib. That's what, like you think you'll do in your last day. But I realize, honestly, it's like, let's live every day like it's our first. Let's wake up in the morning.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole different mindset, right? What if you woke up and you held no aggression towards another human being? You had no you forgive everybody because it's a new day. You don't dig in on politics, although I do know that one side generally respects the idea that we're all entitled to an opinion, and the other side is less respectful of that idea. But I don't dig in. I don't dig in on anything. I try to wake up every day. I've thought a lot about death through this movie. It's dedicated to a dear friend of mine, Scott Brunel, who is... nobody tells you your friends are going to die at this age.
Right.
So since that point, that's 5 years, and I thought a lot about death, and I think that I'm ready to go. Like, I can tell you that. If I go tomorrow, everybody listening to this will go, oh, well, I'm not worried about Dan. And hopefully I have many more years and many more films in me. But I try to wake up every day and say, this is a new day. So whatever happened yesterday isn't happening today. But we bring, there's people who bring events of 30 years ago into the morning that they wake up.
Right.
How can you get on with your life?
Yep.
I actually went to my hometown. I started in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which is Eden, really. And it survived the death of the Bethlehem Steel. It's come back. It is a vibrant, exciting community for the arts. We're doing a premiere on March 3rd in Bethlehem, in which we're donating all the money to three charities, six really. Three are the community theaters I used to work in when I was a boy. One is the Pediatric Cancer Foundation of the Lehigh Valley.
Wow. And
the third is the Lehigh Valley Charter School for the Arts, which is where we're growing artists of the future. See, the problem is, what do they say? Art is upstream of culture, because based on what's on TV and in movies now, we would think it's a despondent, horrible, terrible, evil world in which we need superheroes to solve our problems. But you and I know we don't need superheroes to solve our problems. We need Christ on the cross.
Absolutely.
He solved our problems. That's already done. We just have to recognize it, that the problem's been solved, and live accordingly. Excuse me. I do get a little verklempt sometimes when I think about these things. My next movie is also we're going to shoot in Lehigh Valley. It's called The Hail Mary, and it's about an irascible nun who finds this guy. She knows he needs one more shot at redemption, so she cons him into creating a football team for her all-boys Catholic school, at-risk teen school.
Was the working title of this Take a Knee?
Yeah.
Knee?
Thanks NFL.
Sorry.
For ruining my title. But, it is interesting. I thought Take a Knee was the best title because I wanted to remind people, take a knee, bow before, this greater thing and recognize your fallibility and humanness. But really, the Hail Mary is a much better title.
Sure.
Like the Hail Mary, what do you do when you have nothing to lose?
Right.
So, and that's where this guy is. He's at a point in his life where it's this or disaster, or he's already at disaster. But anyway, in getting graced, I wanted to just get back to that. So I filmed it in my hometown, cast out of the Lehigh Valley, and you can, if you watch the movie, you'll see my dad in a scene going into a funeral. My mom wouldn't be on camera, but we threw her voice in there.
Really?
Yeah. I was going to put my dad. There's a scene where a body's in a coffin, and we ended up having an Academy Award-winning special effects guy, Barney Berman, who's a buddy of mine. He made the body because I was going to put my dad in the coffin, and I thought, he'll fall asleep and ruin every take. And as it is, he has a credit in the film as the man who accidentally stepped into the most shots. Because he would come by, hey, are you filming? Well, hold on, cut. Yeah, Dad, we were filming. But now we're not filming because, see, you're standing on that side of the camera where it's pointed. You should stand on this side of the camera. Yeah, we used, and my daughter worked on the movie, and my son Buster, in the greatest casting coup of all time, plays my character in a flashback.
No kidding.
So when you watch the movie, you guys, go to www.gettinggracedthemovie.com. You can see the trailer in person, and you'll see my son, and you'll think, how did they find a guy who looks just like you but younger? And also we embedded local music into the movie from the Lehigh Valley, which was also great. When we're making these movies, we got to make them like the Andy Griffith Show or like Blind Side. We got to have people be entertained, and then on the way home the next day. And I'll tell you this is a fact. People call, write, email all of us who have been part of this movie and say, I can't stop thinking about the movie. I can't stop thinking about the movie. Because we open so many questions within the dialogue of the film about faith. And Grace's announcement at the end is, I just figured out faith isn't about holding on to what you believe, it's letting go of it. And how can we really, really experience faith as faithful people unless we assume we might be wrong, but we still believe? That's faith. Faith isn't telling people, forgive me, I'm no theologian, but faith, as far as I understand it, is not telling people what they should believe. It's living a life of example and trying to entice them to your point of view through example. and me as a Christian, Catholic Christian, none of it makes sense to me. Let's be honest.
Right.
Okay, he died on the cross. He suffered, died, and was buried. On the third day, he rose again. What?
Right.
You better have faith to believe in that possibility.
Right.
Just because it says it doesn't mean it's true. We know it's true in our heart, but it's not my job to tell people this is what you have to believe. It's my job to show people how Christ exemplified a life well lived, and live a life like that. And then when someone says, oh, well, Dan forgave me for the injustice I did him, then I don't have to tell them what Christ would do. I did it. Yeah.
It's the example you live in, being able to answer the why, and that is in the example of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well put, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I don't know. I think I'm not trying to be an outsider in this world. Every one of us is given. That's the genius of God's great gift to us, is our individual ability to assess information. Like if each one of us, instead of telling people what to believe, lived a life that was what we believe, we might convert one guy. And if we all converted one guy, that's all we have to each convert. One guy. If you convert one guy, you're done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we make this harder than it really is. That's all we need.
Getting Grace is full of that underlying redemption, message of redemption, and not overt Christian redemption, but personal redemption of who they are at the core. Daniel, this movie has been really well received. It seems to have really struck a chord. It's received more than a handful of film festival accolades. It seems to be off to a really good start.
Well, you know what's interesting? So, I love. It's very great. Those awards are great, and this Maddie Dundon, this girl that I discovered. I literally went to my Catholic high school, my same high school, and pulled this kid out of high school, and she'll be a movie star for the rest. She already has a better agent than I do, and that's not even a joke. That's a fact. No offense, Harry Gold, but. The kid, and by the way, whenever someone says no offense, they've just said something offensive. Yeah. So that's like when someone says, I don't mean to butt in. Yeah, but you're gonna. No offense, Harry Gold. What is more heartwarming than the rewards, I swear to you, is that what I've witnessed with this movie, especially like at film festivals, we sold out 2 screenings at a film festival, and they, at the last minute, they did an email blast saying, we're going to give you one more chance to see Getting Grace, but it's at 8:30 at night on the last night of the festival when everything else is done. And yet, we almost filled that theater, and a woman said in the Q&A, she said, ask how many people have seen it before. A crazy question because it only played twice in Glens Falls, New York. I said, how many people have seen it before? 12 people raised their hand. And I said, how many people saw it 3 hours ago? 6 people raised their hand. They walked out of the movie and they walked right back into the same movie.
Wow.
So I know that we've got something here that is potentially a movement. So the other thing, I'm couching my words because I don't want to give myself any credit that I don't deserve. I think I just wrote an article called "Getting Grace, Getting Made," in which I credit completely God's hand in the entire creation of this movie. From the time I said we're going to do it, and we're going to do it now. My wife and I were I was doing another movie in Atlanta, and I said, let's just do it. And from that point on, everything fell into place. Even if I can just tell you something crazy, I didn't have all the money. And I sat down. I was going to do Man in the High Castle, and they just called me at the last minute to go to Canada. I was coming back on an airplane. A guy got on an airplane next to me in Chicago. We both had our seats changed at the last moment. I'm talking to the guy in an hour and 12-minute flight, and he and his sister became 2 of my primary investors. If you could see,
Wow.
If you could see your face, that's exactly. You tell me that's not God's hand.
That's the hand of God.
That's
dude.
the hand of God. And and I'll tell you something else. The crazy thing is, the way it happened was we're flying, and the guy says, "Oh, I invested in a movie once," and I'm like, "Wait, what? You invested in like here I am looking for money." He said, I invested in a movie once. Yeah, what's it called? He goes, well, you never heard of it. Well, I don't know. What's it called? He told me the name, and I said, no, I've heard of that. Someone from the Lehigh Valley, that's my Pennsylvania. I said, in it? He goes, well, I mean, my nephew's in it, but you wouldn't know my nephew's a 4-year-old kid. You know, he had one line in the movie. And I said, your nephew? He goes, yeah, it's my sister's kid. And I looked at him for a second. I said, is your sister's blonde? And he was like, do you know my sister? Some complete stranger sent me a picture in our website of this little boy, and attached to the picture of the little boy was his resume, where I read the name of the movie that the guy said, and also attached was a commercial audition with him and his mom, so I could see his mom and him in a commercial audition where they were both auditioning. So I read, and all I said back to, that's a cute kid, I'm sure we could use him. But if I didn't open that one email on that one day,
right,
and read that one resume, an email from a complete stranger, I wouldn't have had the information that connected me to the guy. So you got to believe God wanted me to meet that man and to have something to talk to him about. God. Not me, not fate, not chaos, not any other thing in Hollywood. Everybody takes it. I live in a town where everybody takes credit.
Not
the secret, not the power. Someone came to my life and they kept saying, and they were interviewing me. They wanted me to maybe do a TV show for them. And they kept saying, you should read The Secret. You should read The Secret. And then after a day of spending time with me, she said, actually, I just realized you actually live The Secret. It's not about where you put the mirrors in your house. It's not about the feng shui. It's about waking up in the morning, accepting the challenge of life, meeting God's obligations for you. And it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you want to dig in and say no. And sometimes, look, our movie's being distributed in a few weeks, and it's, we keep hitting bumps. And I was doing all these interviews, and then I went up to my room and I was and I started raising my voice at the distributor, and he started getting defensive, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry. I don't know. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be an accuser. I want to just be a intercessor. I want to help you. I want to accuse you. Tell me how I can help you. Because every day we're stuck with, you could either do it God's way or you could do it your way, and your way is always wrong, and God's way is always right.
That wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
That wisdom to know the difference is where we all get caught, I think, Daniel.
God bless you. You're absolutely right.
Getting Grace is a beautiful movie, man.
Thank you.
It really is. This film is heartwarming, heartbreaking, and at the same time, it's fun-loving and irreverent. It's a beautiful movie, man. It's a beautiful movie. But there's this scene, a really cute scene, where Grace is meeting with an Episcopalian minister.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think he's the hospital chaplain or something like that. And she says this to the chaplain, well, looky here. Now, this is a miracle. You have an actual honest-to-God Bible in your hippie, New Age Episcopalian office.
Yeah, I think the only person really mad about that one was my mom, who's a Catholic turned Episcopalian. So what we set up in that story is she keeps finding in that we thought it would be funny to have no character be exact. Like if you're watching a movie and you go to a minister's office. Now he just happens to be Episcopalian because that's what we chose. It could have been Methodist. It could have been Lutheran, but he's a new way. Like he's got The Secret, and he's got The Power of Now.
And The Power of Now was the one she was referring to. That was funny.
She's finding these other books, and he goes, someone may have left them here. Like he immediately lies about them, and Jeff and I just thought it would be amazing if there was no character in the movie who turned out to be what you thought they would be, I got flack's the wrong word, but I've one comment that I've received, and I haven't heard a lot of negative comments, was, in the course of the movie, there's all the characters change. God's grace is visited on all of them through grace. It's an allegory for God's grace, and at the end, the bishop makes kind of a leap beyond his proclaimed faith. I got a little slap down for that. Oddly, There was no pat on my back for all the people who came to the realization that life is worth living.
Let's take a second and listen to the trailer for Getting Grace.
Grace has always had a strange way of doing things.
She's a funny kid. I mean, it's extraordinary to see how her mind works. She's dealing with this better than most people at her advanced stage.
Fascinating occupation.
This is my business. I don't have time for your pranks. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to call the police.
Hello, police. I'm being held hostage in my beautiful funeral home by a bald, sickly-looking teenage girl. Can I ride in the hearse?
Wait your turn.
She is delightful.
Yeah, she's a barrel of laughs, every one of them inappropriate.
Where you going, Welcha?
I'm not gonna fall for your tricks.
It's just normalcy, Bill. Don't be afraid of being normal.
Well, look who's talking.
I want to believe because I believe, not because I'm afraid of dying. Teach me.
Bend spoons or to believe?
It's the dying that really is easy. How am I doing? You don't choose to die. It just happens when it happens. But living right takes fighting and commitment and honor and all those things that are so hard for so many humans.
I'm not strong. Not like you.
What are you afraid of, Phil? Me! Well, you'll be glad to know that this only convenience will soon pass.
This is my better life, my happy ever after. This is how I'll survive, my miracle, my answer. I'm finding myself, changing who I am.
I'll be good again. I promise.
And then what? What do I do when you're gone?
I think some people get grace, and others never will.
So when I get to the other side, do you want me to contact you?
How about we not get ahead of ourselves? How about we start with the other side of the table, see how that goes?
Why do you believe in Jesus Christ?
Because I've seen no proof to the contrary that it's not real. You know, I'm sitting here with you today, talking about this dream that I had, that God put in my heart. So I have a beautiful family. I'm a man who. It took me 3 times to get it right. I had one wife who's the perfect mother to the perfect children. I have a new wife who's a perfect partner who brought me 2 more perfect children. A first wife who traveled with me, who took the journey with me from Bethlehem to Hollywood, which was a huge thing to ask of a person. But she took it with me. So I've only ever had help. And I never, ever, ever think that I do this on my own. And I think if I started believing, that's where people get in trouble. If your ego convinces you that you did it, you're lost. So I believe in Jesus Christ because I was led that way by my parents. Who come from a faithful, Polish Catholic and Pennsylvania Dutch Catholic upbringing. And daily I see how living Christ's simple commands, do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, and love one another. And, through his parables, through his teachings, I've always tried to be the Good Samaritan. So, again, excuse me. I believe in him because he's here with me now.
He is, man. He is, brother.
So, if you're someone listening to this broadcast who doesn't believe, what I'd say is forget everything else. Go get a Bible. Just read what he said. Cut everything else out. Just read what Christ said. The parables, the teachings, his verbiage. And just start there. Don't start with any interpretation other than what you think it means. Start there. And, you might find that it works.
I don't think we can say anything more than that. Daniel Roebuck, the movie is Getting Grace.
Thank you.
A beautiful, sweet film. I'm so glad you made this movie, and I look forward to your future work, man.
Oh, thank you.
brother.
Thank you. God bless you.
Getting Grace's website is gettinggracethemovie.com, and the movie debuts on March 23rd, 2018. But if you're near Cincinnati, Ohio, you can get a sneak peek on March 17th at Regal Deerfield in Mason, Ohio. I'll put the details in this episode's show notes, along with all the other links at onfaithsedge.com/94. That's onfaithsedge.com/94. Next episode, I'll talk with Academy Award nominee actor Jen Gotzon Chandler on the DVD release of My Daddy is in Heaven. Jen is one that feels her faith deeply, and it really shows in this conversation. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thank you to Daniel Roebuck for being with us, and thank you for listening. You mean a lot to me, and you mean a lot to this show. Remember, God is real. He loves you, and so do I. God bless.
Thank you for listening to On Faith's Edge. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Internet Radio, or your favorite podcast app on Android, Apple, or Windows devices. To reach out to Joe or leave comments about the show, visit onfaithsedge.com. You're important to us, and we would love to hear from you.
If I had to watch one show for the rest of my life, it would be the Andy Griffith Show. Nothing makes you feel better about life. The best one, my favorite Andy Griffith Show, is one called Rafe Hollister Sings.
Yes.
My gosh, what a feel-good episode. I mean, everything you get you get Barney trying to be Barney, trying to be more than what he is,
Right.
but still you get Andy trying to kind of
Guide him,
and
keep him from getting hurt.
You get this performance from Rafe Hollister that is just tear-jerking, beautiful, just fantastic.
Well, so now it's interesting you're saying this. So the Andy Griffith Show, let's say, is not only a high point in American television, it's also a roadmap for the kind of stories I'm trying to get out there.
Yeah.
I'm not embarrassed by it. I know it's not how it's normally done in Hollywood. You won't find, frankly, a more. I'm going to choose these words carefully, but I don't think I'm wrong. I'll bet you it would be hard to find a more Christian-themed show than the Andy Griffith Show.
A Christian-themed show that was mainstream.
Yeah,
that wasn't designed for the Christian audience.
The Judeo-Christian values that it supported in society, forgiveness, redemption, protection.
Absolutely.
So, Barney's relationship with Andy was not only like comic gold, it was also always infused with Andy protecting him from himself.
Absolutely.
So
beautiful show.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful show.
I'd like to meet someone who's like, I hated the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah,
and I
come
think,
on.
You have no soul.
That's right.